Hello, and thanks for joining me. Today we're looking at a YouTuber named Logan Jones, whose attire reveals him to be a student of Biola University, the institution with which William Lane Craig is affiliated. I don't know if he still teaches there or not, but I'm sure he's inspired a number of students to try their hand at amateur apologetics. I wouldn't be surprised if this video, in which he aims to explain why it's always illogical to be an atheist, is a distillation of one of Craig's own presentations. It certainly does have a familiar ring to it, although it doesn't strike me as outright plagiarism. I could take the time to check, but I'm afraid of bringing another El Mondo into my life, so I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt and consider the actual argument that he's making.
What's up, everyone? Today I'm going to explain why it's always illogical to be an atheist. So atheism usually means naturalism. Most of the time, naturalism is the philosophical belief that everything arises from natural properties and causes, and supernatural or spiritual explanations are excluded or discounted.
First, it is more accurate to say that under naturalism, everything that exists is a natural entity or principle. It would follow from this that everything which arises does so from natural entities and principles. This is an important distinction because many atheists believe in acausal entities, things that did not arise, whether from natural causes, supernatural causes, subnatural causes, etc. In a recent video, I discussed the view that moral truths are not reducible to facts or properties about the natural universe. These truths, existing in an acausal reality in which nothing is or can be caused, do not arise from natural entities or properties. Yet they are natural in the sense that they do not have supernatural or spiritual explanations. They are either necessarily existing things, or they simply don't have explanations of any kind. I myself am partial to naturalistic reductionism, in which things like moral truths are reducible to natural properties about the universe. Put another way, I'm more about Aristotle than Plato. Second, to speak of excluding or discounting supernatural explanations is to speak of methodology. Metaphysical naturalism is the view that only natural things exist, while methodological naturalism is a process wherein supernatural explanations are deliberately excluded. It is, I might add, arguably the most successful single process in the world. It is only by excluding, for instance, the view that gods and spirits make food grow from the ground that we were able to effect the agricultural revolution and all that came after. It's surprising, if supernaturalism is true, that we would be able to advance so far and so fast by assuming that naturalism is true. It's not at all surprising if naturalism is true.
So generally speaking, if someone's an atheist, then they also don't believe in miracles or spirits, supernatural forces, things like that. I know that that is certainly true of the atheists that I have encountered.
I don't disagree with that, but it's worth noting that just before watching this video, I actually watched an anti-atheist video by a rabbi who opened it by asking, why is it that so many atheists start their morning by opening their newspaper up to the horoscope page? I wondered what the hell he was talking about. Atheists, in my experience, don't believe in astrology, or for that matter, morning newspapers anymore. Turns out he was referring to the fact that a certain percentage of atheists in China believe in astrology. And from that it follows that atheists have faith too, they need a god in their lives, etc., etc. This video was almost about that rabbi instead of Logan here.
All right, so if naturalism is true, then everything obeys the laws of nature. That's what naturalism is. Everything is just following the laws of nature. These laws are things like the law of gravity, or a law that states if something is in motion, it will remain in motion until it's acted upon by an outside force. These types of things are the laws of nature, and if naturalism is true, then everything is constantly following the laws of nature.
Everything to which those laws apply. Newton's laws of motion do not apply to Euclidean triangles. The second law of thermodynamics does not apply to open systems, and so on.
This means that everything you think or do is just the result of the laws of nature. Because everything is following the laws of nature, that includes even your own thoughts in your head are following the laws of nature. These laws are causing neurons to fire in your brain in specific ways.
Naturalism does not entail physicalism. If, as many naturalists believe, consciousness and agency do not have a physical basis, then neither the laws of motion nor those governing any other physical entities apply. If I decide to have a turkey sandwich for lunch, perhaps that decision is what causes the neurons in my brain to fire in a certain way, or perhaps they mutually cause each other. It is also known that there are events happening at the quantum level, such as particle pair production, which are physical processes but whose timing is not governed by any known physical law. This gives us some reason to think that even on a physicalist model of consciousness, non-deterministic factors are involved. That all being said, many atheists would agree with you. Determinism is true, free will does not exist, and the thoughts in our heads are simply the result of the neurons in your head following the physical laws of nature. And their response would be, so what?
And while it may feel like you are choosing to believe things for yourself, all of your beliefs are actually determined by the laws of nature. It's just the laws of nature making neurons fire in your head and the chemicals in your brain act a certain way that causes you to have certain beliefs. Therefore, all beliefs have the same source. Both atheists and theists get their beliefs from the laws of nature.
I want you to try something for me, Logan. I want you to try to believe, just for a moment, that London, rather than Paris, is the capital of France. Can't do it, can you? You can pretend that London is the capital of France. You can say that you believe it. You can write entire stories based on the idea that London is the capital of France. But you can't actually choose to believe it, can you? You can't choose your own beliefs, period. This is something I talk about a lot on this channel. It's called doxastic involuntarism. Whether our beliefs are caused by physical entities, caused by abstract entities, or not caused at all, they are not something we choose. This is why I don't attack Christians simply for believing that Christianity is true. I think that they are morally culpable for spreading a proposition which is objectively unreasonable, but I don't think they are necessarily culpable for believing it. Also, if your goal is to save souls rather than make yourself sound wise, then the proper target of your video is not atheists, but certain of your fellow Christians, such as Calvinists, who believe in predestination. Go through what you just said and replace the laws of nature with God, and you've described what they believe. All beliefs are determined by God. It's just God acting in a certain way that causes you to have certain beliefs, and therefore all beliefs have the same source. Both atheists and theists get their beliefs from God. If I remember my Christian theology correctly, damnation is a danger for both atheists and those who are being Christian wrong. And with the latter group, you're most of the way there, so what are you doing making anti-atheist videos?
Therefore, an atheist has no reason to believe that his beliefs are any more likely to be true than a theist's beliefs. Both of these beliefs are coming from the same source, and neither the atheist nor the theist, a theist is someone who believes in God, ultimately choose to believe what they do. Therefore, anyone who is an atheist shouldn't think that atheism is somehow more likely to be true than theism, since both beliefs come from the same source.
On the left is a picture of the Mona Lisa. On the right is a picture of a kid's drawing. Were we to accept your logic, we would have to say that there is no qualitative or quantitative difference between these two images because they come from the same source, a field of red, green, and blue lights in front of your face, which are glowing and dimming according to certain patterns. That's obviously nonsense. Two things can come from the exact same source and yet be very different. Why would it be the case if all our beliefs come from the same thing, whether that's natural laws, abstract entities, God rearranging our meat, or just nothing at all, that we don't have any reason to think that a given belief is more likely? There's no reason why that would be the case. Even if you accept the simplistic, pool table model of physicalist consciousness, where everything is just spherical somethings in a vacuum following a perfectly determined pattern. Some patterns of spherical somethings can still correspond to true beliefs, and some to false beliefs.
It is therefore illogical to be an atheist. AKA, if nobody is choosing their beliefs, but everyone's beliefs are determined by the laws of nature, why should one person think that his beliefs, being determined by the laws of nature, are more trustworthy than a different person's beliefs, which were determined by the laws of nature?
Why should we believe otherwise? To make your case, you have to derive a contradiction between the following two propositions. 1, X's belief that P is determined, and 2, X's belief that P is trustworthy. And on the face of it, these two propositions can easily be reconciled. One way to reconcile them, just off the top of my head, is by saying that trustworthiness itself is a determined property. In any case, you haven't shown a contradiction.
How could you ever think that anyone's beliefs are more reliable than anyone else's beliefs if all beliefs are just randomly determined by the laws of nature and are just a result of chance?
How could you think that anyone's beliefs are more reliable than anyone else's beliefs if all beliefs are determined, randomly or not, by God? This problem doesn't just apply to predestinationists. You're presumably a free will kind of person, and yet the same problem applies to you. Take another two propositions. X's belief that P is reliable, and God has the power to absolutely deceive X into believing that P is true when in fact not P is true. There are only two possible ways that these can be reconciled: if God does not exist, which you do not believe, or if X knows that God does not have a morally justifying reason for deceiving X into believing that P is true, as well as higher order propositions, such as that God does not have a morally justifying reason for deceiving X into believing that God does not have a morally justifying reason for deceiving X into believing that P is true, and so on. There's no way that X can know that without being omniscient. So you've got a problem yourself here.
And so because of this, if you really believe that naturalism is true and you are an atheist and you think that everything follows the natural laws, then it would then be logical for you to no longer be an atheist, because you have no reason for thinking that atheism is more true than theism.
By your own logic, you have no reason for thinking that theism is more true than atheism, because everything follows God's will, whether God causes you to believe something or refrains from deceiving you. You haven't shown, and you cannot show, that this is not the case. You also haven't shown that atheism entails materialism or physicalism or determinism, or for that matter, my own view of doxastic involuntarism. You haven't shown that the rules governing the reliability of beliefs fail to apply to beliefs construed as patterns of physical objects. Now, perhaps my mentioning of rules might inspire you to launch into an argument from abstract objects for the existence of God, but it's been decades since your man Craig abandoned the use of such arguments in his own debates, so I don't anticipate you'll be successful. Bottom line, you haven't shown that it's always, or for that matter, ever illogical to be an atheist. On the contrary, you've created some problems for your own position. If you enjoyed this video and want to help my channel grow, please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Be sure to hit the bell to be notified when a new video comes out. And if you want to share your thoughts on the nature of consciousness, belief, or Chinese horoscopes, leave a comment below. Thanks as always for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. I'm David John Wellman, and the rest is up to you.